Hi, and thanks for joining me for part 3 of the Oak Sprite Hat crochet pattern tutorial. The first 2 parts have been recorded in full, and in this third part we're going to finish up the last few rows of the crocodile stitch of the hat and then work the brim and the stem on top. So here I've finished my last round of framework where we have not worked any increases. We've just worked all the way around with the alternating paired double crochet and singly standing double crochet. And the hat has really started to take shape. We're not going to do any more increases at all. We're just going to work even rounds. So to finish up this round, we're going to go right on into working the croc stitches over the framework we already have established. Since you've made it this far, I'll assume that you know how to do these croc stitches pretty well, and I'd like to talk for just a moment about how to alter the size of this hat. At this point, we have 18 croc stitches around the total circumference of the hat. If you wanted to do a baby-sized hat for this design, you could definitely skip the increases that are placed in round 5. So if you skipped that round entirely, you would work all the remaining rounds with 12 total croc stitches instead of 18. And so that would give you a circumference a little bit more matching. It's pretty small, but it's more matching like a baby or a small toddler sized head. So if you skipped round 5, you would just go right on into working alternating singly standing and paired double crochet the same way that we've been working it, so there would be no increases. But right now we are on round 6 and we are working the 18 total croc stitches around, which gives us an adult sized hat. After this round, we are going to work 3 to 4 more rounds just working 18 croc stitch scales, so no increases, just straight croc stitches. And if you'd like, you can do 4 total rounds of croc stitches, so that'd be 3 more rounds after this to make a bit of a shorter hat. The full hat has 5 total rounds, but that's another place that you can kind of alter the size of this hat. So I'm going to skip ahead because round 6 gets repeated. You can just go back and rewind round 6 if you need assistance working it. I gotta get my fuzz off this hat real quick. But at this point, I do have the hat worked with 4 total rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4 of non-increasing croc stitches. So I repeated round 6 a total of 4 times. The full-size hat is a total of 5 times, but for this particular hat, I wanted to speed up the video and get it done, so I did 4. Doesn't make a huge difference in the hat, but it's, you know, if you'd like to alter the size or conserve yarn, that's an option. So what I'm doing now is I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the very last croc stitch of this round. And as I said, that's completed all the croc stitch rounds. I'm going to switch colors for the brim. So I'm going to cut my yarn and tie it off. And for me, that's just pulling out the loose end through the last stitch. So now that we've completed all those croc stitch rounds, see, I barely have any yarn left, and that's only working 4 rows. Croc stitch eats up a lot of yarn. So for this brim, I'm going to switch my colors. You're gonna need about 50 yards of accent colored yarn. This is my ball of yarn for the brim. It's pretty small. It gets me all the way through the brim. You don't need that much. I'm gonna use the same size hook for the brim as before, which is a 5mm hook. And I'm gonna insert my hook in the last stitch that I made. So that last double crochet, I'm going to insert my hook in the top, and I'm going to join my new yarn in that stitch by pulling up a loop and chaining 2 to start. These first 2 chains do not count as the first half double crochet. So since those 2 chains don't count, I'm going to go ahead and place a half double crochet in that same stitch to be my first half double crochet stitch for the first round of the brim. And to work the half double crochets into these croc stitches, we're really going to work 4 half double crochets per croc stitch. So 1 on the edge, 1 in the side, 1 in the center, and 1 on the other side. So to work into that first side, we're going to go ahead and insert our hook under that double crochet that makes up the side of the croc stitch and make a half double. Whoops, I didn't do a half double. Try that again. Here we go, half double. So wrap the yarn, insert the hook under that double crochet as if it were a chain space, and complete 1 half double crochet. Next, we're going to half double in the middle of the scale, so that's in that gap. It's the same place we were working the double crochets before, so no worries there. And in the next side of the croc stitch, we have that chain 1 space underneath from the framework, and that's where we're going to be working the half doubles into the sides of the stitch for the rest of the round. The very first side doesn't have that, but the rest of them do, so that's where you'll want to insert your hook for that side stitch. So we've got 4 croc stitches now, and we're back to repeating. So to start the next croc stitch, insert your hook into that stitch between scales to put 1 on the edge. I'll go ahead and show it here. You can see we're looking pretty neat and tidy. If you have more or less croc stitches, your brim will be whatever number of croc stitches you have multiplied times 4. So moving on, we're going to half double into the side, half double into the gap in the center, half double into the opposite side, then start over again with half double in the stitch between scales. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for each little croc, and then we've started on our next one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. Once we've made it all the way around the brim of the hat, working our half double crochets into those croc stitches, join your yarn with a slip stitch in the first half double of the round and chain 2 to start the next round. We're going to half double in the same stitch and half double in the next 6 stitches. So half double 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Over the next 2 half double stitches, we're going to work a half double crochet 2 together, which is a decrease. So to do that, we'll wrap our yarn, insert our hook under the next stitch, draw up a loop. Don't complete the stitch, but instead wrap your yarn again, insert your hook into the stitch after that, and draw up another loop. So you'll have 5 loops on the hook, wrap your yarn once more, and draw through all loops on the hook. So we have a half double crochet stitch, which is actually covering 2 stitches. So we've decreased by 1, and we'll start over again by half doubling in the next 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the next stitch we're going to do another half double 2 together. Whoops, I messed up actually. Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, okay, so the next stitch, over the next 2 stitches, we're going to work another half double crochet 2 together. So here's our half double crochet 2 together. This is a decrease. And start your counting over with 1 in the next stitch. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we've counted out 7 half double crochet. So over the next 2 stitches will be a decrease. I'll work my half double crochet 2 together and then start counting again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We've counted out 7, so we'll go ahead into our next decrease. Here we go. And then again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we go. Take a look at what we've done. We've got these stitches working pretty evenly now. We're just going to continue with 6 and 7. Now we know to place our decrease since we've counted out 7. So here's our half double crochet 2 together. And we're just going to continue that pattern all the way the rest of the round around the brim of the hat. So we're decreasing our volume so that the brim will be tightened inward. Here I am at the last half double crochet 2 together. That should fall in the very last 2 stitches of your hat. If you change the number of crocodile stitches, you will have to change this pattern to get the right amount of decreases. But to finish off, we're just going to slip stitch in the first half double of the round and go right into round 13 by chaining 2 and half doubling in the first stitch. This is another round of decreases, so it'll be worked exactly the same way. This is our 3rd stitch, 4, 5, 6. So instead of counting to 7, we're going to count to 6 before our decreases. So it's 1 fewer than the last round. We're going to work our half double crochet together decrease and start counting again. So half double 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it's time for our half double decrease. Work that over the next 2 stitches and resume counting once more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Time for a decrease. There's our half double crochet 2 together. And you can see the brim is getting even tighter now. So we'll start counting again. And I'm going to fast forward the video, just continue that pattern all the way around until you get to the last 2 stitches, which again, that should be your final double crochet 2 together decrease, or half double 2 together decrease. And then slip stitch in the first half double of the round to join your round. Chain 2 to start row 14, and then half double in the same stitch. This time we're counting to 5 before placing our decreases, so 1 less than the previous round. Here's our decrease. And start counting over, so half double 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we'll place our half double crochet decrease here over the next 2 stitches. Start counting over, so 1, 2, half double 3, there's 4, and 5, so we know to place our decrease over the next 2 stitches. The same for this round, we're just going to repeat that method of counting and then decreasing all the way around the brim of the hat. And I'm going to fast forward the video just a bit to get to the end of the round. Here we've joined our previous round with our regular slip stitch in the first half double crochet. There's our brim, it's getting wide and tight. And then row 15, we'll chain 1 to start and single crochet in the very first stitch. And we're actually just going to single crochet 1 stitch in each half double around. We're not decreasing this round. Although I do find that the single crochet, for me at least, has a bit tighter of a gauge, so depending on how big your head is, you might want to skip this round. For me personally, I like the single crochet because I would like the brim of the hat to be pretty tight. And it also helps reduce stretching, which when you come to handmade items, sometimes they do stretch a bit after you finish them. So this single crochet round, I think, really neatens the brim and helps keep it tight and helps keep its shape. But again, you can skip this or add more decreases or add less decreases on the brim depending on the size of the head that this is going to fit on. I'm just going to fast forward real quick. I have a couple more notes on the bottom of the screen on different ways you can alter the brim size. But for me, I'm done with my brim, so I'm going to cut my yarn, tie off. As you can see, the hat's looking really nice. It's got a nice drawn-in brim to give it this beret shape from the outward circular crocodile stitches. Looks kind of like an acorn. Also kind of looks like a hedgehog. I don't care. I like hedgehog too. But we are going to add next the stem in the center of the cap. And for that, you're going to need less than 30 yards. I mean, it's a small amount of yarn, of accent yarn. So we're going to use the same kind of hook and an accent yarn. This is a bulky weight yarn. I like worsted weight better, but I like the color for this, so I'm going to go ahead and fudge it with bulky weight yarn. And I'm going to make a magic ring here. As you can see, I'm pulling up a loop through an open loop of yarn, and I'm going to wrap my yarn and draw through that loop to create a slip stitch that has a bottom loop that is wide open, and that's a magic ring. And you'll see what we do with that in a minute if you've never worked with one. So what we're going to do to start the stem is chain 2, which does not count as your first half double crochet. And into that open loop, we're going to work 12 half double crochet stitches, just right into the open ring that we've got. It's a big circle. So wrap our yarn, insert into that circle, and draw up 12 half double crochet stitches. And once we've worked our final few stitches into that ring, we're going to take the loose end that's hanging off the back. Here, I'll show you. There's that loose end. We're going to pull it tight so that it draws the ring closed through the stitches we've worked onto it. And it makes a really tight center. And we're going to complete our round by slip stitching in the first half double crochet of the round. For round 2 of the stem, we'll chain 2 to start. And we're going to be working post stitches. So we'll insert our hook from the back to the front and then around the post of the half double crochet below, so that the stitch works around the post from the back. It's similar to the crocodile stitch. As you can see, it's creating this ridge that shows in the front. And that's how we're going to make this sharp turn to make this look like a stem. So again, in the next half double, we're going to half double by inserting our hook from the back through the front and out the back again. Draw yarn up and complete another, it's called a back post half double crochet. And we're going to work back post half double crochet around every half double crochet of the round below. This video is not a superb post crochet, a half double crochet tutorial. If you need clearer step-by-step post stitch directions, I do have those available as a resource on my blog. The main pattern page for this design, the Oak Sprite Hat, will link to that post tutorial, so please check that out if you need extra help, but I just couldn't get it all on this video, so hopefully that's helpful to you if you need it. But I am trying to work slowly here on the screen. As you can see, there's a really sharp ridge, a pronounced ridge developing, where the tops of those half double crochets of the row below are sticking out. And that's really going to develop the shape of the stem. So having worked all those back post half double crochets all the way around, we have 12 of them. We're just going to slip stitch in the first stitch to join. I'm going to mush it up here and shape it, and as you can see, we've got that top circle, and then the next round sharply turns downward to shape the stem. So we'll chain 2 to start round 3, which does not count as the first half double. So we'll place a half double in the same stitch, 1 half double in the next stitch, and then we're going to work our half double crochet 2 together, decrease over the next 2 stitches. There's our decrease. We're going to half double in each of the next 2 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and then we'll decrease again. So half double crochet 2 together over the next 2 stitches. And repeat that once more. So 2 times total. So half double crochet 1, half double crochet 2, and then the last 2 stitches will work that half double crochet decrease. Join with the slip stitch to the first half double crochet of the round and tighten it up. So that gives us just a slight decrease downward to shape the stem a little bit more. Make it a little skinnier at the bottom and fatter at the top. Round 4 starts with a chain 2, which does not count, a half double in the same stitch, and 1 half double crochet in each of the remaining stitches. So we'll have 9 half double crochet total. And we've finished the round with a slip stitch. And you can see it starting to shape up. It's really cute and it's a quick addition. Round 5 is simple. You just repeat the same thing we just did, which is half double in each stitch around. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Once we've finished our round with the slip stitch to join, the next round just works a slip stitch in every stitch around. So keep slip stitching in all of the stitches until you've gone all the way around. The slip stitches help tighten up the stem at the end. They give you a really sturdy base because you're going to sew this onto the hat, and it makes it a little bit tighter because we have to cram it in between those tight crocodile stitches in the center of the hat. So you could potentially skip the slip stitch part, but I find it helpful. So I'm going to cut my yarn, but I'm going to leave a really long tail on this stem so that I can sew it directly onto the hat using the tail, the yarn tail. To sew on this stem, we're going to need a tapestry needle. So this is my little needle case. It's old as the hills. A tapestry needle with a large enough eye to string your yarn through. First off, I'm going to get rid of this extra yarn tail from the beginning of the stem. I'm just going to weave that in really quick to get it out of the way and to make sure it's secured. So just weave back and forth. Once that's out of the way, I'm going to take just a tiny bit of polyester fiber fill, which you can get at the hobby store, and I'm going to stuff the stem. You really don't need very much at all, and actually you can totally skip this part. The stem is just fine without stuffing, but I prefer it with stuffing. I also have a ton of stuffing, so might as well use it up. Actually, I put a little bit too much in there at first, so I'm going to take a little bit out. You don't want the stuffing it so much that you can see the stitches stretched out and see the fiber fill in there, because it looks, you know, too loose that way, so don't overstuff it. So I'm going to thread that long yarn tail onto my tapestry needle, and I'm going to get my Oak Sprite hat here and search for the very center, those first 3 Croc stitches we made. You can see that little center circle there. I'm going to get those Croc stitches kind of folded back so I can see where this stem goes, and that bottom of the stem fits right in that center of the hat. And I'm just going to carefully, with that yarn tail, weave that in and out around the central circle of the hat. So down through the bottom, come back out through the top. Be very careful not to catch those Croc stitches in there. Come up through the stem, pull that tight. Go back down through the stem and back down through the hat. Pull it tight again. And just repeat this process, again being careful not to catch the Croc stitches with your needle. You don't want those compressed or covered up, because we worked really hard to make them pretty. Come down through that framework, and we're just going to repeat that, stitching all the way around the bottom of the stem and through the center of the hat. Once your stem is completed and sewn on, we have our little stem here around our acorn cap. We're all finished up with the Oak Sprite hat. Just weave in the rest of those remaining ends. Here's my other example that used a number 4 weight yarn. The stem is a little smaller. I only used bulky weight for this one because I liked the color. And here's my green version, which I think is so pretty and cute, which I just purchased a faux fur pom-pom from the craft store, which was on a little elastic loop. And all I did for that one was loop that loop through the center and tied it in a knot. So that one was super easy. And to me, that looks like a little thistle blossom. I don't know, it's adorbs. That loop is poking out a little bit, but so there's the Oak Sprite hat. And thanks for joining me for this tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.